What if everything you believe, everything you think is true, is just a carefully constructed illusion? Today, Priyansh and I are diving deep into the nature of truth itself. Is truth something we can ever fully grasp? Or are we just endlessly chasing something that doesn't even exist? Let's break it down. Priyansh, what if everything you believe, every thought, every value, every so called truth, isn't actually yours? What if your entire worldview is just a patchwork of ideas implanted in you by others? If you strip away everything you've been told to believe, what's actually left? Who are you beyond the programming?
I mean, what are you? Let's focus on the what are you aspect of it. So most people are their genetics, their environment, and their upbringing, and also their experiences. All these four factors determine who you end up being. Hell, to a point, they even determine all of your decisions. I think that is still well known, and the feeling within you, which separates you from other things, is what you classify as yourself, and that self is a hodgepodge of everything else that I've already mentioned, all the other four factors, and together they form who you are. How is that for an answer?
Exactly. But if everything that makes you you is just an accumulation of external inputs, your first, your genetics, your environment, your upbringing, and your experiences, then is there any part of you that is truly original? Is there any aspect of yourself that isn't just a reflection of something else? Or are you nothing more than a vessel for the circumstances that shaped you?
I mean, the point is, I think we just recently discovered that there are no more original thoughts either. Every pattern, every combination is somehow done. Hell, in the infinity of the universe, anything is possible. I think there was an experiment where if you put infinite monkeys to on a keyboard to type, at least like many of those monkeys will just type full on Shakespearean plays. So it's only a matter of coincidence at the end of the day. So you either are falling to randomness, or you're falling to the fact that a lot of different things made who you are. At the end of the day, even if let's say we were unique, let's assume I was a unique presence, it wouldn't matter because again, I will be replicable across the universe. So does it really matter? Is my question to this. Whether or not I am original or not. I am original in the sense, but there is one way to call myself original. I am original in the sense that my exact genetics, upbringing, experiences, and everything else about me is something which could only exist in the moment as I am. It cannot exist in any other particular combination, and this combination is me, and in that way, it can be unique.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. So it's not that you're original in the sense of being something completely new, but rather that you are a one time event. This specific combination of factors will never exist in exactly the same way again. But then, if that's the case, does that uniqueness actually mean anything? If you're just a fleeting moment in time, no different from a wave crashing onto the shore, what makes you more significant than anything else that briefly exists and then disappears?
The fact that it is me. I mean, a spoon, for example, doesn't matter. But if a spoon was conscious, it would matter to the spoon that it existed. So the point of reference that I am is what makes me matter. And similarly, for things and people that matter to me, they matter to me because of my point of reference. So at the end of the day, it is your point of reference which decides what matters and what doesn't.
Exactly. Meaning isn't an inherent property of the universe, it's something that emerges from the perspective of the observer. A rock doesn't care that it exists, but you do, because you're the one experiencing it. So, in a way, everything is both meaningless and infinitely meaningful at the same time. It all depends on who's looking. But then, if all meaning is just a byproduct of perspective, does that make it any less real? Or is subjective meaning just as legitimate as objective truth?
How can meaning itself be objective when meaning itself is a word that is derived from language, and language itself is not objective? Language is a shared delusion that a particular subset of people, and for us, or even a particular subset of a species, they're able to identify with, right? Symbols and concepts like love, war, everything is ultimately just a shared delusion, a shared subjective viewpoint of reality. It is not objectively existing, right? Hell, differentiation itself does not objectively exist between objects. We created that basis on our perception. Therefore, meaning itself is similar in the sense that it matters to me because I exist. It might be subjective to me, but there are something that a lot of people subjectively agree upon. It does not make it objective, but at the end of the day, everything is to a point subjective, not just meaning.
Yeah, because objectivity itself is something we impose onto the world. There's no cosmic rulebook that says a chair is a chair or that a person is a person. We categorize things based on how we experience them. So even when we think we're talking about something objective, we're really just referring to a shared framework of perception. Meaning, then, is just another category we impose, a function of consciousness rather than an external truth. But if everything is perception based, does that mean that reality itself is just a consensus? And if so, does anything exist outside of that consensus?
No, it does not. I mean, we call the observable universe. We don't call it the observable universe every single time that we are talking about it because that is the limit of our perception. Similarly, if human beings never discovered space, the world as we know it, even in older religions and science textbooks, it was the earth being the center of everything that we know, and the sun and the moon and everything else going around it. It is only when we gained a vantage point which was beyond the earth itself were we able to say that yes, earth is revolving around the sun, it is rotating, it is doing all of that. If you take a even further vantage point, then you see the whole solar system moving. And if you take an even a larger vantage point, you see the galaxy, then the galaxy cluster, then the observable universe. Everything makes sense from a vantage point. Hell, even when we are at our vantage point, things and objects, they make sense. But when you go to quantum mechanics, so you change your vantage point, immediately things stop making sense in the way that we understood them from that level. So yes, perception does shape reality. If we were just animals, we were not even conscious enough to register ourselves in a particular world. That is all that we will know. A lion in the savannah does not know about a whale in the ocean.
Exactly. So reality, as we experience it, is just layers of perception stacked on top of each other, limited by what we can observe and comprehend. But that means reality isn't something fixed, it's something shifting, something contextual. The lion's world is the savannah. The whale's world is the ocean. Our world is shaped by our senses, our thoughts, our vantage points. But if reality is just a construct of perception, then what happens if perception itself is flawed? What if the way we experience the world isn't even close to how things actually are?
It's not. I mean, we don't. The visible spectrum of light is called the visible spectrum of light because that is the spectrum of light that we can observe. I mean, from what I heard, the praying mantises can view a lot more colors than we can, and then there are species of animals that can view a lot less colors than we can. Why haven't we named the colors that we can't view? Because it doesn't matter to us, it is not in our purview of reality. We might, and the only reason we know there is a spectrum of light beyond the visible spectrum is again because we were able to somehow measure it. If our measurement tools, if our equations, if our mathematics stop working, we'll be limited to our perception, and even those are tools to expand your perception. The things that we know and the things that we know that we don't know are not even the entirety of the knowledge. There are things that we don't even know that we don't know. That is the point. So perception does shape reality, and with a flawed perception we will always have a flawed sense of reality, but that will also be a reality we can all subjectively agree upon. So does it even matter?
Exactly. So, our reality is just the best approximation we can come up with, based on the limits of our senses and the tools we use to extend them. But here's the catch. If our perception is always flawed, then every single framework we've ever created to explain reality is, by definition, flawed too. Science, just an evolving set of best guesses. Philosophy, a structured way to think about something we can never fully grasp.
Sure.
Religion, a narrative designed to make sense of an incomprehensible existence. So the real question is, if every system of knowledge is inherently flawed, is there even such a thing as truth? Or is truth just another illusion, a convenient lie we tell ourselves to feel like we understand the world?
I mean, conceptually, truth can exist. Just because we are not able to view it does not mean it doesn't exist, right? If our perception is flawed, that's fine, and our perception will ever evolve. So it's the truth exists as an absolute notion and as an absolute concept. It does exist, and the attempt of science isn't to completely reach truth. It is to chase into truth to gain more and more perspective on reality. It is truth is basically at the end of an infinite series, but we are making progress towards it, even if we can never technically reach it. It doesn't matter, because we are the closer to it we get through our different devices, through our perceptions, through our understanding, through our mathematics, we are getting better and better at viewing reality. Just because a model is flawed and not absolute perfection does not mean it is not useful. The Rutherford model was useful even though it was not completely true.
That's fair, but here's the problem. If truth exists as an absolute, but we can never fully perceive it, then functionally speaking, does it even matter? I mean, if something is forever out of reach, then for all practical purposes, it might as well not exist. Science evolves, sure, but what if every step forward is just another layer of illusion? What if progress isn't leading us to truth, but just to a more complex, convincing version of the same fundamental lie?
The point is that even if you cannot, let's say, become the strongest fighter in the universe, which is something that is a goal of someone, a character like Vegeta in Dragon Ball, he wants to become the strongest. But he can't, because there will always be someone who's stronger. But the protagonist of, for example, Goku, he knows there is always someone stronger, and then he still fights. He enjoys the fight itself, and he enjoys the process of getting stronger. And that is the case with science and truth. Even though there is no way to reach the absolute truth, our lie is getting better and better, and it is getting closer and closer to truth. It is rather an incomplete truth than a lie.
Fair. But here's where that analogy breaks down. Goku and Vegeta are still playing within a defined system, one where strength can be measured, where there's a clear hierarchy of power. But what if truth isn't like that? What if there's no actual end goal, no real strongest fighter, just an infinite spiral of interpretations that feel more refined but never actually escape the limits of our perception? If truth keeps shifting as our vantage points evolve, then maybe truth isn't something we approach, it's something we construct. Maybe what we call truth is just a consensus reality, a collective agreement on what seems to work best at a given time. In that case, the only real truth is that there is no truth, only increasingly sophisticated delusions.
That is a very wrong estimation of what truth is. Simply because the truth, so called truth, not the absolute truth, but the truth that we are working with right now is working for us. It is leading to better understanding. It is leading to practical solubility, solutions. The moment we recognize the earth itself as a globe is the moment a lot of things were kicked into motion. We got satellites, we got aircrafts, we got a lot of different things. The moment we realized what reality was all about, we are only able to go to Mars is because we realized what space was. Same thing happened with the moon landing. So it is making difference. Functionally, we are improving. Just because you can't become perfect does not mean you will stop trying to become better.
I see what you're saying. But here's the thing. Does functionality equal truth? The fact that something works doesn't necessarily mean it's the ultimate reality. Newtonian physics worked for centuries until we realized it wasn't the full picture.
Yes.
Classical mechanics gets replaced by relativity, which gets refined by quantum mechanics, and who knows what comes next. Every step forward in science feels like truth, but it's really just a temporary model that will eventually be replaced. So yes, what we call truth is useful, but usefulness isn't the same as absolute reality. If our best understanding of truth is always one step away from being obsolete, then isn't truth just a moving target we'll never actually hit?
And does it matter if you're still getting better? If and it does it matter if you're still sophisticated, getting more sophisticated, improving? This progress itself is an expression of truth. If truth is the glacier, this expression of truth is the river that comes out of the glacier. Even if you're not able to get all the water from the glacier at a time, you're still able to get water which does nourishes trees, which does fertilizes land, and which does serves its purpose. Goku became the strongest under the heaven, and at the end of the Dragon Ball. Yet in Dragon Ball Z, he kept on encountering stronger and stronger opponents. Hell, the moment he felt like now I'm the strongest after defeating Kid Buu, he was still facing. Now he was facing gods and different universes and different multiverses. And once that is going to end, the creator is going to create another subset of people that he has to defeat. The truth of the matter was still that Goku was getting stronger and his strength did matter. And similarly, all of this that we're doing, reaching towards truth, does matter. It does not, just because you cannot reach an absolute does not mean the chase of it is not meaningful. I would say this chase of it is more meaningful than the absolution of truth.
At the end of the day, the pursuit of truth might just be more important than truth itself. We may never reach an absolute understanding, but in the process, we refine our world, our minds, and even our sense of meaning. Maybe that's the real truth, an endless chase that makes life worth living. If you enjoyed this discussion, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are we truly searching for truth, or are we just telling ourselves a story? And as always, patterns are everywhere.